Hey guys, just a really quick video today. It looks like we are going to see a green weekly close on the BX Trender for the first time since September of 2024. Now, the last time that this happened, measuring from the weekly open rather than the closing price, we saw a 73% move up. And the time before that was also a 73% move up. And technically, I shouldn't really include this week because that week was a dark red close, so that was a 68% move up. And the time before that, we saw a 65% move up. And obviously, in 2023, the market was not as explosive as late 2023 after all the ETF hype. We saw 21%, 41%, 40%, and 21% respectively. Now, you can obviously use my settings for the BX Trender. Well, they're not my settings, they're Peter DiCarlo's settings from Traders Helping Traders, but it's a free indicator, no paywall, no credit card, no nothing. You can add that to your TradingView and do your own back testing. Now, one thing I must say is last week, I thought this bar here was going to close light green, but only just. If you remember in my video, I think we were at like 1.5 or something like that. But unfortunately, we didn't close at the top of the bar, but we still managed to close above our range, all-time high to correction low 50% level, as well as this important trend line here, which you can see has acted as support flipped to resistance. Now it has been flipped as support and retested this week. Now I think this week we are going to have a close pretty high up on this bar, ideally above the top of the weekly bar, because obviously the BX Trender is light green for, it's up to 14. It's not just like 1.5 or 2 this time. But if we jump down to our daily chart, you can see the stochastic RSI. This is the one with divergences, where it basically highlights the divergences for you, which is really handy because it's also free. And it's shown that we have got a hidden bullish divergence up here at 94K. Now, obviously, if you're trading a stochastic RSI strategy and you're looking for these little crosses and all that, you could have gotten in after that confirmation close at 94.1 on a long trade, and you would be up 20% on a 10x. Or if you're really rich and you bought an entire Bitcoin, you would be up 2,700 US dollars. Not bad. But I am not here to talk about the daily strategy. I am instead here to talk about what I think is going to happen in this next weekly move. Now, if we do a straight extrapolation and we look back at since the bull market got hot, ignoring our, I guess you could argue, bear market rallies. Well, this one would be a bear market rally because the low came in around here. This would be our first pump out, second pump out, smaller pump, and this was when most people thought the bull market began, with the big double-digit pumps on altcoins and Bitcoin for obviously the ETF hype. But as Jason Pizzino always says, the bull market starts from the low, not when the masses begin to FOMO in. So whether they FOMOed in here, or they're just coming in now, the bull market has been going on for quite a while. You can go and watch Michael Pizzino's videos for some time analysis, which I used to do a bit of myself, but now I just watch his videos, and I joined TIA Premium at last after making my spectacular single day win. But yeah, it's nice that I don't have to do time analysis for myself anymore. Someone else can do it for me. But that is not the point of this video. I'm getting sidetracked. What I think is going to happen, very likely, is this trend line here is, sorry, not this trend line, the institutional sell level up here is likely going to be some resistance. Now, Peter DiCarlo goes over this in his free course over at Traders Helping Traders, but if you think of it logically, institutions who were buying this dip that all the retail was selling into, like remember when there was so much tariff drama and this and that, everyone was panic selling their bags. Well, considering the market didn't just crash from there, someone was buying it, and that was institutions. So if institutions were buying down here, do you think they're going to keep buying at $100,000, or are they going to start selling? They're probably going to start selling. And the people that are going to keep buying is retail. Now, if you go and watch some of Jason and Michael Pizzino's videos, they upload all weekdays, well, not all, but most, Monday to Friday. They'll talk about the daily exchange volume. Now, the daily exchange volume right now, if we have a quick look here, is still making lower highs and lower lows. So we have not confirmed this as a higher low yet. And I would love for that to happen, but it's still unconfirmed. So if we pop on my volume here, you can see we just aren't getting the sort of crazy mania volume that we were getting in like the Trump pump and what was this? The ETF hype and all that. Like, there just isn't enough volume in this market. So once institutions begin to sell, which based on Peter DiCarlo's teachings, they should around this level, the 786 to the 826 Fibonacci, because they're up 80%, not 80%, but I don't even know how it works. I actually did watch his videos, but that was a while ago. I just know that institutions will sell here. You can go watch it yourself if you want to learn how it works. But basically, if they start selling here, retail has not FOMO'd back into the market. So retail is not going to start buying from institutions, the exact opposite of what is happening here, and drive the price higher and higher. Now, this is also very likely what happened here. Retail panic sold the yen carry trade crisis and every other dip through here, which institutions were buying up as you saw the lows get higher and higher. And retail was buying in through here when institutions were now selling their bags. And obviously, retail pushed the price a bit higher, but retail is not as rich as institutions, so they can't push the price much higher. So that being said, maybe we hit 101 to 103K, retail FOMO's in, but not enough because the daily exchange volume isn't up much. So I think maybe we push to 105, 106,000, which Jason Pizzino talks about in his videos as being an important level for this and that reason. I'm not going to run through all of their analysis. You can go watch his and Michael's videos on YouTube yourself and see how their analysis aligns with mine. So I'm thinking, obviously, we've also got big psychological levels at 99K, 100K. So I think the price is probably pretty close to topping out on this rally. And I think we should see something similar to here, where we might have a fake dump that quickly gets bought back up, and maybe another, we're here. Basically, this week is here because the BX trender has just gone green. So we might see a fake dump, followed by another rally, another fake dump, a fake rally, and then the real rally. So what could that look like on the chart? Well, if we dump, we've got obviously this trend line, which is an upward sloping trend line. So if we dump next week, we might go to say 93.5K, 94K, something like that. And if we rally again, maybe we rally into, as I said, anywhere from 199, 100K through to potentially 106K. And we just chop around in this range for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and on the 6th week, we see a nice breakout. So that, how does that go? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which lines up to a June pump, which is typically not that common, but as we've seen in this cycle, the winter time is usually pretty not that explosive. We obviously had the Binance FUD here, and in June here we were seeing just sell-offs across the board into a July low. So could a June pump happen? Of course. It happened in 2021. So potentially we'll see something like this happen. But who knows? But even if we rally into this trend line, which is from all the previous all-time highs lined up together, and we don't break it, that is still a 20-something% move from front-running this signal, which is getting in as soon as that turns green, like last week. So if you'd actually front-ran this signal with me last week, you would already be up 14%. But obviously, if you want to wait for the confirmation of this week's close, there's still 20% potential upside, even just to this trend line. But from what Peter DiCarlo is saying over at Traders Helping Traders, he thinks Bitcoin could reach 120,000, which is also a price target that Jason and Michael have talked about a little bit in their videos, which is 24%. Now, obviously, whether you wait for confirmation or front run the signal is really up to you, because as you can see back through here, we had the BX trender flip, the BX trender flipped light red for 2 weeks. And if you remember, this was when retail was very loud and we had the all-time high, and it looked like the market was going to reverse. It looked like we were only going to correct for a bit in December, and in January we were going to be off to the races. So you could have, and I'm assuming based on this all-time high, when price was up at say 109k, so not 109k, 108k, something like that, it was very likely that this BX trender was green. But obviously if you'd bought in, you would have realized the week actually closed red. Now it was a light red, but the next week would have been dark red, which would have been your sell signal. So you'd have actually sold for a 10% loss. Now, obviously last week, if you'd gotten in when we first saw the dark green up at around 95k, you would have actually shown a loss slightly based on the weekly close. But because it didn't turn dark red, you wouldn't have had to sell. But you would have just had to weather down a couple of percent drawdown from 96k to 94k, and you're back up now. And as Jason Pizzino always says, when you try to front run a trade or you don't wait for confirmation, you obviously have the potential to make much more gains, but there's also that risk to the downside, which obviously could have happened here. Let's say you got in at 109k, 108k, and you had to sell out when this week closed dark red. You would have lost 11%. And is that worth it? Well, you'd lose 11% there, but when you front run the trade here, oh boy, if I can even use my trading view properly, you'd have gained back 14%. So that's just a matter of personal preference. There's not much more I can talk about this week. I think I'm going to wrap up my video here for Bitcoin, but as you can see, the weekly 1-bar chart has still not turned up yet, and our daily 1-day and 2-bar, 1-day 1-bar, 1-day 2-bar chart is still up. So what am I doing? I'm still in spot bags, which I have purchased through here last week when I talked about that lovely bull flag breakout. I unfortunately closed my 10x long way too early here at around 86, 87k. Big mistake. I wish I'd ridden that longer, but at least I've still got spot margin positions, albeit smaller position size at a lower leverage. But hindsight is 2020, I guess. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I will see you in another video.